Welcome to the Canadian Beef Cattle Podcast, presented by the Beef Cattle Research Council, the most popular content from beefresearch.ca, available on the go. Before we get into this week's episode, a quick message from the BCRC.
Bull selection is an important decision with many factors to consider, and price is one of these considerations. The BCRC Bull Valuation Calculator helps estimate break-even bull prices based on various cost and revenue parameters specific to your farm or ranch. For instance, by inputting data such as expected calf performance and the cow-to-bull ratio, you can determine the potential revenue the bull will generate, which will adjust its purchase value accordingly. Check out this helpful tool linked in the show notes. This episode is titled Vaccines, Use as Directed, and features the BCRC's Science Director, Dr. Reynold Bergen.
Hi there, I'm Reynold. This Research on the Record article originally appeared in the March 2025 issue of Canadian Cattleman magazine. It's been posted on the beefresearch.ca site with the publisher's permission, and today we're talking about vaccines, use as directed. Calves are born with a completely naive immune system. So unlike other species of animals, cows don't pass on any immune protection to their offspring during pregnancy. That's why it's so critical for calves to consume at least 2 liters of high-quality colostrum soon after birth to give them some antibody protection while their own immune system develops. The calf's developing immune system can learn to recognize and respond to disease-causing pathogens in 2 ways. It can learn the hard way, by being exposed to an infectious disease, hopefully surviving, and then responding more quickly and more strongly the next time. But it's better to learn in a safe environment, and that's what vaccines do. Vaccines teach the immune system to recognize what different pathogens look like, so that it can respond more quickly and effectively if those pathogens are ever encountered in real life. So just like any other teaching exercise, repeating the lesson helps it to sink in and build a stronger memory. And vaccines are the same. So revaccinating or boosting a vaccine strengthens the immune system's memory. So a recent study that's linked in the online version of this article found that vaccination rates are on the rise. Over 85% of producers in the Canadian Cow-Calf Surveillance Network routinely vaccinate nursing calves against BVD, and over 90% are vaccinated against IBR, BRSV, and PI3, which are involved in bovine respiratory disease. And that's good news, but less than half of those producers provided a booster vaccination against any of those viruses. So that means that the immune system isn't getting fully trained, and then the calves aren't as protected as they could be, and producers aren't getting the full benefit of those vaccines. So Dr. Nalusha Malmithuj, who's with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada in Lethbridge, and Glazy De Silva, who's at the University of Alberta, recently did a project to determine how vaccine handling practices, including providing a booster, affected the effectiveness of those vaccines in calves. So here's what they did. They vaccinated 150 calves against PI3, BRSV, IBR, and BVD types 1 and 2 using a commercial 5-way modified live viral vaccine. So probably something like Express FP5. That was done at spring processing. Then at weaning, calves were divided into 5 different groups. The control group did not get a booster vaccine. The other 4 groups all did get a booster with the same vaccine, but they handled the vaccine differently. So one treatment mixed the vaccine, put it in a cooler, and administered it within an hour, which is what the label would tell you to do. The second treatment mixed the vaccine and put it in a cooler, but held on to it for 6 hours before they used it. The third treatment mixed the vaccine and kept it at room temperature and administered it within an hour. And then the fourth treatment mixed the vaccine and left it at room temperature for 6 hours before using it. So then they collected a bunch of samples before the calves were boosted, and they collected another sample a month later. And those samples were used to do serum antibody level and virus neutralization tests to find out whether the revaccination and vaccine handling affected the strength of the immune response. They did not follow these calves to monitor whether they got sick or not. Doing that would have required thousands of calves, not 150, and it would have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. But it's important for you to be aware of that. So they learned that it's really important to follow label directions when you're using vaccines. Boosting matters. The protection provided by the initial calfhood vaccine does not last forever. So a month after that booster vaccination was given, all 4 groups of boosted calves displayed a stronger immune response than the unboosted calves. In fact, that group of calves that wasn't boosted had even lower immune responses than they'd had a month earlier. So that means their immunity from the initial vaccination was still going down, and they would have had less protection against those viruses than the boosted calves did. They also found that vaccine handling matters. Some vaccine antigens were a little less affected by storage temperature and mixing time than the others, but vaccine handling clearly affected the animal's ability to mount a strong immune response against BVD. So there were 6 to 7 times as many animals that failed to generate an immune response to BVD when the vaccines were mixed and kept at room temperature for 6 hours before administered, compared to when they were chilled and used within the hour. Vaccines prepare calves to respond to the germs that they're going to encounter anyhow. So the viruses in this vaccine, they're common in Canadian beef cattle. So those calves would probably have been exposed and developed an immune response anyhow if they survived. But that's the point. Vaccines allow the immune system to practice in a safe environment without needing to expose them to the actual pathogen and risk death, illness, and reduced growth performance. The bottom line is that vaccines don't completely eliminate all disease. But when vaccines are used properly, they reduce the number of calves that do get sick, and they help ensure that the ones that do get sick get less sick. So what does this mean to you? Well, if you're not vaccinating yet, start. Talk to your veterinarian about what diseases to vaccinate against, what vaccines to use, which animals to use them in, when to give them, how to properly store, mix, and administer those vaccines, and how to correctly calibrate, clean, and maintain your syringes. Nearly all vaccines need to be given twice to provide maximum protection. Follow the label directions. If the label on the package insert is too small to read, and I can guarantee you that it is, a larger version can be printed from the Compendium of Veterinary Products. And you can find that under the Producer Resources and Useful Links tabs at verifiedbeef.ca. And extensive vaccination resources are also available by searching for Vaccination of the Beef Herd at beefresearch.ca. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you again next time.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. You can find all relevant links and information at beefresearch.ca or in the show notes. The Beef Cattle Research Council is funded by the Canadian Beef Cattle Checkoff and strives for excellence in the production of Canadian beef, cattle, and forage through research, innovation, and extension. Tune in every Tuesday as the Canadian Beef Cattle Podcast delivers straightforward insights, expert information, and a wealth of practical knowledge for Canadian beef producers. Subscribe now.